Good morning, everyone. Jim here, live from Jim Laird here from Largo, Florida. I want to say something other than it's a beautiful day here in Largo, Florida, but it's a beautiful day here in Largo, Florida. I mean, look at how pretty it is outside. Speaking of pretty, here's Miss Lauren. Good morning
You're
to
the
you.
sweetest. Good morning, Jim. How are you?
I can be sweet, and I can be sour too. I am well, thank you. I've got a brand new computer here, so
It does look different, I was gonna say.
yeah, the picture looks maybe a little better, hopefully.
What
But
kind did you get?
so it's the same. It's a ThinkPad by
Mhm.
Lenovo. It's this. The other computer I have is the smaller version. This is the X1. This is a bigger, like a 14 or 15-inch screen. The other one is this, or maybe it's a 15-inch screen, but this is the bigger one. It's the exact same model, just more power, better camera.
Right.
The reason I got it is because it's actually water resistant. It doesn't have a fan. So like when I'm in Nicaragua in the humidity, it's not going
Right.
to suck the air into the computer when I'm outside.
The picture
The
is
other,
much clearer.
thank you, I appreciate that. I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing.
No, it's great. We wanna
Yeah,
see.
the smaller laptop doesn't have as good a camera, but the reason I got it is because it's got a cellular connection.
Mm,
So there's been times when our internet's been out, and
right, I know.
and I've had to do it on the cellular. And there's times where I'm going to be moving around a lot here in the next little while. I'm going to be like the gypsy, kind of drifter kind of thing.
Where in the world is Jim Laird?
Yeah, the kind of the Clint Eastwood
Carmen
Pale
Sandiego.
Rider. You ever watch any of the Eastwood movies?
Yeah, sure.
Stillman's never seen Josie Wales.
Well, I can't say I have either, but I love
Okay,
those
well
movies.
that you need to put that on your
I'll
list.
put
He's
that on
he's
my
he's
list.
never seen Pale Rider, Hang 'Em High, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly.
The Good, the Bad, the Ugly I've seen.
So let's give a little recap of what's going on. Of course, Dr. Stillman will be fashionably late as always. He kind of pops in at the last minute or several minutes after, which is totally fine.
He's allowed.
He's allowed to do that.
Yeah.
So basically today, right after this, we're doing a mind body medicine blood pressure thing, which is part of our bonus for our fundamentals of wellness course with coaching that we're continuously adding content to. So if you want to get on next week's topic, which I can't remember off the top of my head, get on our email list. You'll get that email Mondays and Wednesdays with the link to that. So we're giving away free content for you being on our email list. Just go to stillmanwellness.com. When the pop-up pops up, put your email in there. That'll get you on our list. And on Saturday, Dr. Stillman with Clark Engelbert is doing a minerals webinar, which a lot of people are really into.
Yeah, I'm
and
excited.
That link is in the description below. That's here live on YouTube. So you'll be able to get in on that as well. And he'll also be, if we have a few spots left into our HTMA coaching, or, they run you through an HTMA and they teach you how to interpret it. We have a few spots left in that. So we're sending out another email today to the people that are on the wait list. If there's any spots left over by the time of the webinar, he'll be making that announcement and making it public. So that you can get in on it. So
they're a great team, Dr. Stillman.
They're good. I've been on a lot of those. I've been on a lot of those calls. They're very helpful, and people just love the course. And they're going to be doing continuing education too, which for the people that just finished the first course.
Yeah.
They just released like a round 2. So there's going to be continuing education. So you can learn how to work with people using HTMAs. And it's a very valuable tool because you can pretty much get them anywhere.
Yeah.
They don't have the restrictions that the blood work does, right? Or some of the other tests.
New York's a little iffy, but
New York is a little iffy, but there are ways around that we won't talk about here,
right?
Because we're already shadow banned enough.
What?
We're already shadow banned enough. We don't need to make it even worse.
I was saying, what?
How dare we teach our clients to work around the system and get healthy? How dare we?
I know.
That's right. So
we do such.
So you actually sent me this article.
Yeah, it's an interesting week. I'm getting.
Let me read the title out.
Yeah, go ahead.
It's okay, no problem. Because we got this. You also got to remember when we do these that people are listening on Spotify. They're listening on iTunes as well. So this goes out to you both of our YouTube channels, both our Facebooks. This is live on Twitter as we speak. Not to make you nervous.
Oh, great. Thanks.
And then it's live on LinkedIn too. And then we have some people that upload the MP3 and put it on Kajabi on podcast, which goes out to Spotify, Apple Play, and a couple other places. And so a lot of people will listen to they'll not watch the audio. They'll listen to just the audio. So we always got to make sure we can, we need to read stuff with questions and stuff like that. So basically there was an article she sent me, Miss Lauren sent me from the Wall Street Journal, and it seems to be, I think you were about to say, there's this like mainstream media attack on hormone replacement right now. It's just full frontal assault, hormone replacement, peptides, anything that has anything to do with people like raising their vibration, getting them healthier is a full frontal assault right now. So can hormone therapy raise your risk for Alzheimer's? That's the title of the article. And the link to it is in the description below. So take it away.
No, I'm so glad you said that, Jim. Like that's what I was going to say before. There seems to be like an attack this week on hormones and all things, that, tend to optimize our bodies and the way we live our life, especially as we age. And the article, I'm just bringing it up one second, was in the Wall Street Journal. And I actually think it was well written, but the title is sort of like
it's clickbaity. It's
right?
Clickbaity. Mm-hmm.
So can hormone therapy raise your risk for Alzheimer's? The medication might lower or at least not increase your dementia risk if you take it in midlife. And I don't like how they say it's medication. We're not medicating a woman with estrogen. We're helping to, balance these things at some point in your life if there is a deficiency symptom. And women, seek to take hormone replacement for all different reasons. So
would the word optimize be appropriate?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So, they get into the study. I keep clicking off of it. I'm sorry. So this new study suggested that hormone therapy might lower or at least not raise your dementia risk if you take it in midlife. For older women, the study found some signs that the medication might raise it. Again, I hate that they use the word medication. The findings don't resolve the debate, meaning, a lot of these studies that come out, the end all be all of it is, well, we need more research, right? So it did in this, they said it did look at 50 prior studies and give one of the most thorough answers for what we know now. And this is, understood pretty clearly in many different realms, younger women who started it. So when you start it early, you get the most bang for your buck with estrogen and hormones.
Because there's less of a fall off, right?
Absolutely. So they had a 32 reduced risk of developing dementia compared with women not taking anything. Women in that same life stage taking combination therapy, estrogen plus another hormone, and they call it progestogen, which, we always, when we say these hormones like estrogen and they use progestogen, you never want to use a synthetic form of these hormones from in our, some can say it's opinion, but just a lot of research has shown that too. Also had a reduced risk, but it wasn't considered statistically significant. So this is where it gets a little interesting. They said for older women who started taking the hormone therapy more than 10 years post-menopause, the study found some indications that taking combination hormone therapy might raise the risk of developing dementia. The signs weren't strong enough to be conclusive. Now, I wonder I just want to know the mechanism of action that they looked at to see that it, raised the risk of dementia.
Right. And the fact that they don't even take anything else into account other than just the hormones, right?
Well, that's a good point. So I was very pleased to see that this professor, Maki, she's a professor of psychiatry. psych and OB/GYN. That's a great mix. So she did say, that change wasn't necessarily because of the hormone itself. And it might be because of a woman's decline in age and overall health, because many people today have a higher rate of diabetes, obesity, other metabolic conditions that could raise the risk of dementia by itself.
Right.
So again, this is sort of clickbaity,
very clickbaity.
And if somebody doesn't fully read through these articles and understand what research is and the different types of research, this is where the fear that we spoke about earlier this week comes from.
Right. And it's obvious this week in particular, they're trying to drive this fear of hormones, of peptides with headlines like this. And it's interesting. There's two factors involved in it. Let's look at like prostate cancer, for example. For years, they thought high testosterone was the driver behind prostate cancer, to the point they castrated men because of it, right? Which is absolutely insane. One of my mentors, a guy named Louis Simmons, who's absolutely nuts. He got two things right. I remember when I was competing in powerlifting. He got more than two things right, but the big two in the hormone world were never take an anti-estrogen. It'll make you weak. And he was right. It's not good for you to suppress estrogen when you're taking testosterone in men. And he said, if you get prostate cancer, double your testosterone immediately, And so now there's a lot of people asking the question like, okay, testosterone levels keep going down and down and down, and prostate cancer goes up and up and up. So maybe it's the lack of testosterone that's causing the prostate cancer. And not to mention, nobody gets any sunshine on their junk anymore. Right.
And then Abraham Morgenthaler wrote this great paper where he tested whether or not men with prostate cancer or cancerous changes in the prostate had a higher risk of prostate cancer or either new or worsening if they were on testosterone replacement therapy. And he found that, in fact, they do not.
Right.
So there's no truth in this idea, at least based on the best literature, which is still a small sample size, but there's no evidence based on the best literature that prostate cancer is a contraindication to testosterone use.
Well, and we've got this society now where men and women's hormones are just obliterated.
Mm-hmm.
And what happens when you have, say you've got somebody who's in their 30s that has a testosterone level of 300 or 400, whereas 50, 60, 70 years ago, they'd have went into their 40s, 50s, 60s. We see, men with testosterone close to 1,000 in their 60s was very common not that long ago. What happens when you start at 1,000 and you have that nice gentle decline? But what happens if you start at 300 and you start declining? Like, what are the ramifications of that?
A society of docile,
absolutely
emasculated, very obedient, very unimpressive men. That's what happens.
You got your thesaurus out on that one. Thesaurus. Do you notice the new laptop, the camera?
Wow, I did. You know what? Now I did notice it, but I didn't realize. I didn't put two and two together.
Yeah, Lauren noticed it right away. She's
really?
Like, your visual is so much better.
It's very clear.
Great, yeah.
So
really showing off that Florida sunshine.
I know.
And all the greenery down here.
It's beautiful.
We can't all move to Florida.
One day. Can't all be that lucky.
I said you can't all move to Florida.
No.
Right.
You still coming down, Lauren?
There's too many people. There's too many people here already. That's why we're skating where the puck is going, right?
That's right. Skating where the puck is going. We're getting property in Nicaragua, which is what my Substack was on today. But yeah.
Did you have any more? She basically went through a nice summary of like,
oh yeah,
how they're looking at this stuff, and
I think I think the vilification of hormone replacement therapy is going to go down as one of the greatest psychological operations in the history of the world.
Next to the beer bug?
Yeah. Because when you really understand what these hormones do, they help you remain young and healthy and vital and mitigate all of the diseases and I'm not going to say diseases, all the symptoms and signs of aging. And they keep you young and healthy and well. And if you look at how drugs proliferate on a patient's medication list after menopause and with men during and after andropause, it is a direct consequence of the metabolic dysfunction, i.e. age-related changes associated with decline of these hormones. And so, the reality is this is what's wrong with the commoditization of science in the West. In the West, science has become a commodity because if you have science backing your position, people take you more seriously. It's probably the ultimate social proof. Oh, the studies have shown, right?
Mhm.
And so because of that, industry has understood that they need to create a certain amount of scientific literature to back up their economic position to protect their assets. And so they've created this massive amount of noise and confusion in the scientific literature where, very sadly, professors are not rewarded for great discoveries anymore.
They're killed.
Yeah.
Oof. Brutal, Jim. You got anybody in mind?
I could think of a couple off the top of my head.
Really?
I mean, defunded.
Defunded.
Defunded. Exercise.
Killed is. Well, let's just say, I don't know.
Shunned, or
we have a lot of questions about how some people have met their end in this country, not only recently, but the last few decades. Really last several decades. But anyway, I mean, the point is,
but if you get all your funding removed and you're pushed out of the environment,
your career is dead.
Look at some of the people in certain, in the climate change space that have looked at the data and all of a sudden changed their mind, and all of a sudden all their funding is gone and they're just kicked out. I mean, there's no. It's really good. That is, James, that is can a lack of sleep impact hormone levels? Absolutely.
Yes.
Lack of sleep will decimate your hormone levels.
It's very strongly associated. Sleep deprivation and shift work are strongly associated with Alzheimer's and dementia,
heart disease, cancer, all the things.
So,
all the things.
But yeah, what I was saying is science has really been commoditized because of this, and professors are rewarded, as I was saying, for the volume of papers that they write, and not for the quality of the work or the value it brings to society. And so you get these really clueless bureaucrats and technocrats who think, oh, this research is so interesting, we've got to fund more of it. And real world people, clinicians, regular folks look at this research and it's like, why did you think it was important to study, simian virus number 51 and whether or not it can affect or infect, or jump from rhesus macaques to, I don't know, parrots? You really thought that was worth our tax dollars? But what happens is they're like, oh, I've got this long CV. I'm the president of this and that. And I saw this happening in academia, and it's why I left. I left because I looked at how academia was going, and I thought these people are the most puffed up, arrogant, narcissistic windbags on the planet. They're not actually making a contribution to our society. They're grifting off the taxpayer to create all these studies that create what is truly just confusion. Because if you look particularly at epidemiological studies that we talk about all the time, like let's take cell phones and illnesses, right, with wireless radiation. All those studies you look at, the vast majority of them, you can write, if you spend 20 years studying this topic, you can do 4 studies for 5 years and have 4 papers or half a dozen publications out of it, when you could do one study that was bigger, longer, 20 years in length instead of, say, 5 or 4 or whatever. And you'd have fewer publications, and you'd have spent more time on it, and you'd be less rewarded for it. And that's why our epidemiological studies here in the West, they'll say, oh, there's no evidence that this or that or the other thing causes an illness. Well, forgive me for pointing out that the average person lives several decades. So if you're not doing epidemiological studies on that time scale, why don't you just pack up your bags and go home? Because you're really just creating confusion out there for the public. And that's why I say to people, if you're basing your health decisions on the epidemiological literature, you are basically waiting for the last indicator to show up. I say that by the time the epidemiologists figure that something is bad for people, and the public health establishment comes around to that way of to the reality. Like smoking was the great example of this. Many of our industrial chemicals are a great example of this. Great movies like Civil Action, Aaron Brockovich, these, and Dark Waters. These are great movies where this is all dramatized and in very real fashion, unlike a lot of Hollywood productions. But by the time the epidemiologists have come around to reality and woken up, it's because the bodies are stacked so high and so deep that no one can pretend they're not there. I mean, any idiot can see that smoking affects your health. I mean, you have to be truly dense as a clinician to not notice that all the heavy smokers have respiratory diseases, they're cachectic, they don't have a lot of muscle mass, their skin looks like trash. And I mean, you really think that's not affecting their internal organs?
Well, and how many years did it take them? For years, doctors encouraged people to smoke.
I know. And this is why
for a long time.
And this is why Hippocrates said, physicians are many in title and few in reality.
Right.
But you don't get to say that in academia. Oh, it's upsetting. You're upsetting your colleagues. Yeah. Forgive me, but my colleagues are a joke today.
And they look at what they did with the food pyramid. They were talking to a lady who was in on the creation of the original food pyramid. Yeah. And she was like, the food pyramid that they released after the special interests got involved looked nothing like the one we recommended. The one they recommended looked a lot like the vertical diet that we recommend to people.
Yeah.
And after the special interests and all the money got involved, it was upside down. It was like the cereals and everything were the base of the pyramid. Right. Whereas before, it's just nuts.
And this is why you need to be on our email list, because we say things like this out loud and we get punished in our social media because of it, because we just don't want to live in this world where it's like, oh, you're all going to be sick, pathetic, weak, unimpressive, plagued with brain fog, fatigue, weight problems. You're going to be unhappy and you're going to own nothing and you're going to like it. What planet are these people on? So be on our email list, because that's where you'll get our uncensored content and our weekly webinars that Jim and I hold at 10 o'clock on Thursdays. What is our topic on tomorrow, Jim?
Mind, body, medicine.
No, wait, today.
It's today.
I know what day it
is. This, doctor. It's mind, body, medicine, and blood pressure, I believe. And then be here tomorrow, because the three of us are going to tackle the Joe Mercola article on estrogen and how evil it is.
Maybe it's like because Halloween is coming up, everyone's talking about the evil signs of everything. It's a weird week, right?
It's a full frontal attack on anything anyone can do to optimize their longevity and health. I mean, they're going after peptides hard, real hard.
I even got an email from the Dutch test people.
Really?
I subscribed to their emails, and they had a podcast that came out yesterday, The Dark Sides of Estrogen. And I was very surprised. I was very surprised to see that they put that title, because they're testing facility. And then I was trying to listen to the podcast. They took it down and they sent out an apology because of their title. It says an apology and clarification regarding our recent podcast episode. And they even said we allowed the title of the week's podcast episode to be a bit of clickbait. And the title was misleading as our position on estrogen. And even as to the content of the episode, which didn't delve into hormone replacement therapy at all, but instead discuss how xenoestrogens and other environmental considerations, can harm. But I'm just like, man, it's been a week.
Well, I think this is another important point that we like to make, which is that, and I have a friend who's in marketing, he's in digital marketing for doctors, and he says, I don't hate the player, I hate the game. And that's why, if you're listening to this, you need to really accept the fact that you are your own worst enemy. You guys make the market for clickbait.
Yep.
Be real. And that's why, Jim and I will do these things. We're like, oh, let's ask the AI what's a good title for today's live.
Yeah.
But we're honest with you about it. And we also want you to realize that when you're in the webinars and on the email list, we're just straight up with you, because we really just want you to stay engaged with us so that we can stay out of the matrix and not have to go back to working in under fluorescent lighting for, corporate
and the funny thing too
government,
we're not trying to sell you something either, right? I mean, we have courses and things.
We have things we have to sell, Jim. The food
we do, but what we're not trying to sell you the latest greatest gadget. And with us, like a lot of the times,
sometimes we are, because they're great and they're late.
They're very few and far between, right? Like
we're very judicious.
Blue blockers, right? It's not like every XYZ supplement's going to solve all of your problems, right?
Yeah.
We even tell people that we might not be able to help you with your problem, but we'll find somebody who can help you, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of people that we meet that need a lot more specialized care beyond what we're capable of, right? And that goes for anything.
Morning, Michelle, it's good to see you here. Michelle says, "You guys are the best. Thank you for your honesty."
Aww.
But the thing of it is like it's gotten so insane that these marketers are having to compete for people's attention by saying more and more outrageous things, right? And so it's sad, really, honestly.
Yeah.
I mean, half the time we're talking people out of doing less fancy things. A lot of times people are in trouble because they're doing too many fancy things.
Well, that's what expertise is worth paying for. Hey, how can you help me get the same outcome for less time and less money? Right? That's it. That's the name of the game. Now, sometimes we'll get the people in who are like, money is no object. I just want to be the latest and greatest, most amazing. Like, turn me into Dorian Gray or, Count Dracula or whatever. And we're like, all right, well, we can walk you through what all of that looks like.
Or Darth Vader.
Darth Vader? No. Yeah, we don't really specialize in necromancy here at Stillman MD. But I mean, those are interesting cases. Boy, a lot of stories about those. But yeah, I mean, even those people, we have to be like, hey, I know you think this $50,000 whatever gadget gizmo you have been told is really great is great, but honestly, you're going to actually get better results if you just spend that 20 minutes you were going to spend on that just going outside and taking a walk in nature.
Yep, I agree.
Shocking, I know.
We're pushing a half an hour here, so
I know it's enough.
Come tune in tomorrow. I'll get that up as soon as I can, and we love having Miss Lauren here. And
we do.
Thank you guys for watching. Make sure you get on our email list. That's super important. Make sure you check out Dr. Stillman's webinar on Saturday.
Drop us a like, give us a share,
drop us a like, a subscribe,
give us a comment. If you're listening to the podcast, give us a review.
Enjoy it.
So. We just gave them like 8 calls to action.
I know.
It took people a lot of work to do.
All right, I'm gonna leave the studio now, everyone. Bye.
All right, have a great day.
See ya. Bye, Jim.
Bye, Lauren.